Well, according to these power
Jets.
rankings,
Yeah.
the 33rd team is a site that put out a list. They rated all 32 teams.
Yeah.
Post-free agent moves. By the way, there's the Colts down there at number 32.
As of this weekend.
Yeah,
Before
so
the
as
Lamar
of this weekend.
news.
So this factors in all of the signings the Browns did, everything that they did. They still have Cleveland at number 20, which shocked me. I'll get you guys' thoughts in a second. 1 through 4, identical to last year. Super Bowl matchup, Kansas City, Philly. The other Final Four teams, Cincy and San Francisco. There were a few surprises. I thought Jacksonville took a huge leap.
Yeah.
They've got them now just behind the Bills. The Lions are now at number 8.
Yeah.
So here they come.
The craziest thing to me, and maybe there's some bias here, is the Steelers at 11.
I thought that
I
was
don't
high.
understand, like, what? So
How?
if you're putting the Browns at 20,
Yeah.
and listen, we are all to some degree biased. Maybe we think the Browns should be higher. I do think the Browns should be higher than that. But if you're going to have the Browns 20, to me that assumes that Deshaun Watson is not going to be good this year.
They're making that assumption.
So if you're making that assumption, why do you have the Ravens and Steelers so high when you don't know who the Ravens quarterback is, and the Steelers quarterback
Big question
was not
mark.
very good?
No, I know. I don't get it.
They got the Packers higher than them. Who's the Packers?
Right. Now, it's not just quarterback, but
I mean, that's a large part of it.
And to be fair, like, we are Browns, right?
Right, yeah.
Whereas if you're
We're
a
close to the
national
flame.
publication, you're covering every team, and you don't get in the weeds on any one
But you
team.
need to on these free agents that they've brought in.
Right, and teams may be looking at it and say, an organization like this might say, well, Watson sucked last year. He hasn't been good for 3 years. We don't know if he's going to be good. Their defense was terrible. They didn't add a ton of sexy names. Like,
Right.
we look at the Browns defense and we think it's going to be a lot better because of Jim Schwartz and some of the guys they added. But a guy from the 33rd team who's only paying 1/32 of their attention to the Browns might say, well, their defense stunk. It's not that much better, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So I could see that. I do think the Browns should be higher. I think the Browns should be around where the Steelers and Ravens are. Like, I think they're in that 11 to 16 going into the season.
Yeah,
Now,
I would have been happy anything higher than 16. I want to be in the
Right.
top half of the league.
Yeah.
The last place you want to be is 17 and down. I think the Ravens and Steelers are way overrated right now.
The Ravens,
way overrated.
The Steelers, I just don't get.
Well, I think
at
the
all.
Steelers Bowl, they finished, 9-8? The Steelers played a number of games last year without T.J. Watt, and they didn't play well.
Yeah,
I think
hear
they're
ya,
probably saying, here's a guy that just is an impact guy every
but
game
when
he
Watt
plays.
came back, like, they won a lot of close games against mediocre and bad teams. I don't know, listen, I don't think the Steelers are that good. I thought they'd be under 500. They won their last 4 to finish 9-8.
I think they could win 11. I think they could win 7.
Here's the thing. I don't think they can win 11.
You
and
don't?
this is why. When I see Kenny Pickett, he reminds me of, like, Mac Jones.
Yes.
Which is like, this guy's a finished product already.
Yeah,
He's a veteran college player. Like, his best is mediocre.
And that's cold. I like that. He's a veteran college player.
You know what I mean? Like, he's already.
You know what, though, Bull? He showed nice growth last year.
Now, listen, I might be wrong. I'm just saying, I think what we've seen from Mac. Now, Mac Jones was better as a rookie than Kenny Pickett, so maybe there's a little more from Kenny Pickett. But I think what Mac Jones did as a rookie is the ceiling for him,
right?
And I think it's the ceiling for Kenny Pickett.
That's
what I see it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that's how I see it.
The highest evolutionary step to them is like Jared Goff. If they ball out, their highest
Andy
level
Dalton,
is Goff.
Same thing.
Yes.
Andy Dalton. Like, I look at them like I would always look at Alabama running backs. Like, we've seen the best of them in Alabama.
Yes. Yeah.
They don't get better than that because Saban gets the best of them. And I feel like these are guys who came in ready to play in the NFL because they played a lot in college, and it's just their guys. And I don't see them being that good. And I don't love the Steelers running game. And the Steelers, to me, have a studs and duds defense like the Browns do. So they got some holes in their defense.
They got an opportunity. I think here's the problem.
Yeah.
The Steelers and Ravens, for the most part, they live off of reputation.
Yes, they do.
They got 5-star reputations. This is like going to that steakhouse, right? Now, I'm not going to say it because we all know you go to a steakhouse, they'd be like, oh, yeah, man, Ruth's Chris. You'd be like, but, yeah, is that really the top steakhouse in the game?
No.
No, you just got
It's probably the top chain steakhouse, but it is a chain.
It's a chain, bro. So like those are staples. The Steelers, people will tell you the Steelers defense is good even when they trash.
100% true.
Yeah, because you remember the dominant Steelers
and because
defenses.
it's rarely trash.
Yes.
It's not trash that
But
often.
you know what? When they've got some really good pieces up front, and they've got Minkah Fitzpatrick in the back.
Right.
So it's kind of like the Browns. Like, let's forget about the middle part of the defense, and let's try to. We're going to shine the bright lights so brightly in your face with our superstars that you're blinded and you won't even see the deficiencies elsewhere. They do have some really nice pieces on that defense, and they did go 9-8 last year, missing significant time from their best player. Mm-hmm. Their young quarterback showed real maturation and growth as the season went on. That might be why a national publication said, hey, you know what? They're arcing up. Let's move them up a little bit. What they didn't do in the Browns case, and I reached out to a couple of my buddies who cover the NFL but not the Browns, and I said, what do you think of the Browns offseason moves? Two of them. One of them said, some nice moves. I said, elaborate. Well, I think they filled their holes up front. Okay. The other one said, I know they signed a lot of guys. I don't know how much better they got, but they were active.
Right.
So it tells me that they weren't
valid.
even really following it that closely.
That's right.
Yeah.
My first buddy said, yeah, you guys really addressed your weakness up front.
Right.
He knew. But you know what? What we did were staple moves. They weren't the headline-grabbing moves. Like Hargrave would have been the headline grabber. We didn't grab headlines. We wrote a really solid paragraph.
People get
and put
caught
an
up
article
in the
together.
headline moves in
Yes,
free
they
agency.
do. And
But that's
rarely
not
do
what
those
we-
guys move the meter and put you over the top.
Yeah, and it's whenever, listen, I don't mean to diminish national guys. When you're a national guy, you
They're
got to cover
watching
every team.
32 things move
We're covering the Browns. We're going to know the team better. It's the same thing with baseball, especially even more in baseball. Because the Guardians don't get a national pub.
No.
Like when we had Mike Ferrin on, you were off. Like Mike knows the Guardians.
Right.
But most national guys, like they don't know. Like when I listen to MLB radio or whatever, some of those guys, and they're baseball diehards on that station.
Sure.
But some of them, when they talk about the Guardians, I'm like, they don't know the team that well. I can tell, and they can't because they have to pay attention
it's
to all
impossible.
32,
It's
all 30
impossible.
teams. I get it. I don't kill them for it. I'm just saying, when you have to cover every team, you can't know. When I was working in New York, it was harder because I had to watch the Mets and Yankees. Like here, Cleveland football's king.
Yeah.
I love baseball, so I watch baseball, but we don't talk as much baseball. And I think we've done a good job talking baseball, talking Cavs here.
Sure.
But football's always king.
It doesn't dominate our conversation.
Right. In New York, it's a four-way tie between the Yankees, the Mets, the Giants, and the Jets.
It is.
I had to be on top of more things there working in New York. It's a little harder.
Now imagine throwing 30 more teams on in football and 28 in baseball.
And it makes it hard. So when I would do when I was doing a national show here for when I was working the radio station, and I would do a national show, CBS Sports Radio, on the weekend, and like I knew there were some teams I didn't know as well because it was impossible.
I've come around a little bit. I got some more information. I think Andrew Berry then came around a little bit too. I think that he believes that nowadays you have to have a crazy offense just to even be in the mix. I go back and I look at the Eagles last year. It was lights out. These dudes was crazy. I go back and look at what the 49ers was doing. Crazy. But as soon as the 49ers lost their quarterback, I think a lot of people realize, like, it don't matter how good you are on defense. Now, you can't stop these dudes every play. You just cannot. So
now, the Niners thing was pretty extreme. They
extreme.
Didn't even have a quarterback
by
the end of that playoff game.
Even as Philadelphia went on and played the Kansas City Chiefs, I think it was really demoralizing that the Eagles were at 100%. Kansas City was nowhere near 100%. And they still won that game because of their offense. I think the telltale sign is Andrew Berry said, all right, well, let me get some guys over here. We're not going to spend too much. We're going to get some dudes to fill some holes on defense.
Get them on the cheap.
We're going to try to bend but don't break and do some things because even though in the AFC it don't matter. But I think him going out and getting two receivers, and then even the fact that they still talk about Jerry Jeudy, and the Browns' name is still listed.
Yeah, I don't know if
I believe it. But here's the thing.
The only way you get Jerry Jeudy at this point is if now you could trade Donovan Peoples-Jones as part of the deal.
Could.
If
you're Denver, is that attractive to you?
No, probably not.
Depending
I'm just
on what else they throw in.
In theory, if I had to trade a third rounder this year, a second rounder next year, and DPJ for Jerry Jeudy, I'd do it because now I got Jerry Jeudy, Cooper, and Elijah Moore.
And I don't even.
But I doubt any of that.
And I'm looking at the mock drafts and the mocks on ESPN, the mock simulator on PFF. They got him taking another receiver.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, because.
Well, think about this, guys. In this NFL, right, it used to be about having the great defense.
Right.
And if you have a great defense now, to me, it's a bonus.
Yes.
That's
Sure.
fine. But
Philly had the great defense and they did not win.
Right. And the only reason they were in the game is because their offense played great, too.
You're right.
Okay?
Jalen Hurts played great.
Yeah, he did. Except for the fumble.
At an MVP level.
And a fumble. Now.
I had to. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Hey, that's
but
a little
now-
nugget for y'all that watch the show a lot, right?
Yeah,
You'll get it.
exactly
It's a
right.
reference, right?
But here's the thing. If I say to you, would you rather your team have a great offense
Yes.
and an average defense
Yes.
Yep.
or an average offense and a great defense?
First.
Everybody
time.
would sign for that.
Every time.
It's not even a question.
Yeah.
That wasn't always the case.
Now, they're
but it is now.
standouts. The 85 Bears.
But right, that was
The Ravens, the Bucks in
those days, it was
03.
different.
Yeah,
You didn't
could
have
do
to
it.
have a great-
And
now-
I don't even know that it was different, Bull. I would say this. What they had were all-time great defenses.
Sure, but
So
also,
you
Hall of
better
Famers.
have that if
But-
you have a mediocre offense.
But Jay, the rules didn't favor the offense as much as they do now.
I know they didn't.
And that factors into it's almost impossible. I don't think any team was ever going to have a defense like those defenses again. I think we'll never see a defense
Maybe not.
that good.
Maybe not.
Because you can't play that way.
You have to have a Hall
Yeah.
of Famer at every level.
Right.
Yes.
And you can't.
and by the way, all three of those teams did.
Right.
Yes.
You
But-
got Ed Reed in the back. You've got Ray Lewis in the middle.
Yeah.
And up front, their team up front was ridiculous up
Right.
front. I don't know if they'll have a Hall of Famer per se,
But-
but they had great players up front.
That's right. But
Bucks did.
here's why beyond the obvious why we all want the offense. Think about it this way: if you have you just said it, you have to have Hall of Famers to be great on defense. You have to have a boatload of great players.
Yeah.
To be great, not to be good on defense, to be all-time great. You have to have like 5, 6, 7. To be great on offense, you don't have to have 5, 6, 7 great players.
One.
You got to have the
Two.
great.
You need two. Name an all-time great offense that only had one.
If you have a quarterback.
Yeah, but
Sometimes
even in
it's it.
Kansas City's case, Kelsey is Hall of Fame track.
Right.
Yeah, if you get
When
if
Tom Brady was doing his thing in Tampa Bay, he had Gronk and he had Hernandez for some of those Super Bowls.
I think you have to have the great quarterback and one great skill position
yeah,
player.
I agree.
Yeah.
One.
I agree.
And yeah, you can't be
And
terrible
other
the
than
rest
that,
of the
you
offense.
can have some pretty good guys.
But everybody else has just got to be solid.
Right, you're right.
You could have 5 solid offensive linemen, a
Completely
solid
agree.
running back. When's the last time a great running back won the Super Bowl? A great one, not a
talked
solid
about
one.
that. They-
I saw Joe Burrow throw for 500 yards back to back, and I changed everything I said. Like, not this year, but the last year I went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He was playing the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he threw up like 500. Then the next week he came back, threw up for another 400. I said, look, we sitting here doing this 250, 272.
Ain't gonna do it.
These guys is getting 5 a game. They scoring every time they get the ball. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't do
So
it
your
no more.
defense just has to be average.
Right.
You
And
know,
with an
just-
average defense, I'm paying a couple of guys a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the rest of the guys I'm getting on the cheap. And when this guy gets too expensive, I'll go replace him with somebody else.
It's noon, so that means
It is noon, which means the 12 o'clock lunch hour of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, sponsored by Colleague Racing. Colleague Racing, the official NASCAR team of Northeast Ohio. I got a number for you guys. Real
wait,
quick.
Wait,
we got
we
to
got
shout
the-
out.
first off, we got that
AJ
dub.
Allmendinger.
We
Yeah.
got that win.
We got a race report coming. We got a
The
race report
Xfinity
coming.
race on Saturday. I know, but we got to. I mean,
Yeah,
this
gotta
is the
acknowledge
colleague
it there.
hour. We got to give Colleague Racing, who, by the way, passed out a bunch of Colleague Racing
Yep,
gear to the
yep.
guys on
Shout
Friday.
out to you.
We got
You'll
the
be
hat
seeing
right
that
there.
on the show
Yep.
coming up. But they got the Xfinity win with AJ Allmendinger, who is a fantastic road course racer, and they got their first win of the season.
I'm
this
nodding
year, so.
as if I have any clue that he's.
We're going to do a
He's
race
great.
report at the end of the show. Earl's got the full recap
Okay.
coming
All
up.
right. By the way, that
That'll
was
be
a
later.
fast
Real quick,
first
I
hour.
got a
That
number
just
on
flew
defensive
by.
stats.
I couldn't believe it was 12 o'clock.
I know. I couldn't either.
Yeah.
I got a number on defensive stats.
Okay.
Top 10 defenses in terms of points per game last year, which at the end of the day is the most important metric.
Right.
You ready? Look at these teams.
It's
and
not
look-
the most important metric, but go ahead.
Yeah, there are other ways to measure defense.
but go ahead,
But I'm saying in totality
It's
here. 'cause I know
interesting.
it's-
Go ahead.
I mean, if you score 45 a game and you score quickly, and the other team's going to throw the ball a lot, you're going
Yeah.
to give up points.
No, but
meaningless
I'm just
points,
saying.
but points.
All right, go ahead. Give it to it. What do you got?
So you got the Niners led the league. Obviously, very good defense.
Yes.
Bills were second. I don't think anyone looked at the Bills as
No.
a truly dominant defense.
No.
You had the Ravens, who barely snuck into the playoffs, which granted Lamar was hurt.
They
for
played a
6
lot. Their
games.
defense was really good the second half of the
Defense
year.
was
Yes.
great. They almost beat Cincinnati in the playoff
They
game
did.
because of their defense.
Yes.
Jets, not a playoff team.
No.
Cowboys, they made the playoffs. Good defense.
Yeah.
Bengals, good defense. Then here's where it gets interesting. Commanders, not very good in the grand scheme of things. New Orleans, not a playoff team. Pittsburgh, not a playoff team. New England, not a playoff team.
Right. And look at the playoff teams that you mentioned there. Most of them are, even though their defense was good, their offense was better.
Yeah.
Exactly my point.
Yeah, except for Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore was obviously offensively challenged, but their defense was good enough to be a play. You know, if last year, if Lamar had been healthy, that's why a lot of his teammates were chirping in the media and on social media, because they knew that they had something special on defense.
Yeah.
And Lamar could have been the X factor that put them over the hump.
Yeah, we'll never know.
We'll never know.
Yeah.